Have you ever stopped to wonder why? No matter how hard you work, how many hours you put in, or how many prayers you've whispered into the silence of your room, your life still feels stuck. You try to stay positive. You believe in God. You follow what the church taught you. But something feels off. It's as if an invisible force keeps pulling you back. You move forward 2 steps and get thrown 5 steps behind. Is it bad luck? Is God ignoring you? Or is there something else? Something far more ancient, far more hidden, at play here? Let me ask you directly, what if your entire life has been limited not by your effort, not by your education, not even by your level of faith, but by a forgotten Bible code, buried for more than 3,000 years, that was never meant to reach your hands? A code that holds the exact key to your spiritual, emotional, and financial breakthrough, but was locked away by people who wanted to keep you obedient and poor. I'm talking about something real, not a theory, not a conspiracy, an actual spiritual law, written in the original Hebrew, preserved in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and intentionally removed or obscured from modern teachings. And today, you will hear it for the first time. This is not just a Bible study, it's a revelation. Because what if I told you the very structure of scarcity you live under has a spiritual root, one that was passed down for generations, and you inherited it without even knowing? They told you poverty is holy. They said money is the root of all evil. They trained you to believe that being broken is being closer to God. But none of that is in the original word. You've been trained to tolerate suffering, when in truth, God designed you to rule, multiply, and prosper. This code isn't just about wealth. It's about alignment, about breaking the spiritual contracts of limitation that were written over your bloodline. It's about waking up to the truth that sets people free and confronting a system that was built to keep you in spiritual chains. And this system doesn't want you to hear what I'm about to say. For centuries, this forbidden teaching has been guarded, twisted, and hidden by layers of religion, fear, and manipulation. Churches ignored it. Pastors were warned not to preach it, and families who dared question it were silenced. But now, it's surfacing, in fragments, in patterns, in symbols. The signs are aligning, and the ancient scrolls have started to speak again. You're not hearing this by accident. You didn't click this video just because of curiosity. Something inside of you, something eternal, knows that this is the moment you've been unknowingly preparing for. And when I show you this ancient code, this spiritual technology from heaven itself, you'll understand why things haven't worked for you until now. You'll understand why your prayers felt blocked, why your business stayed small, why relationships broke down, why fear and lack always seem to find their way back. But now, we step into light. Let me take you back 3,000 years to a place forgotten by time, where the first letters of this divine pattern were written, and then buried, sealed behind rituals no one dared to decode. Because once you hear it, you'll never see life the same again. Before I reveal what's been hidden for 3,000 years, do this now. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Because what I'm about to show you is being silenced in many places, but here you'll have access. And when you engage, you help this message reach others who are searching for the truth, just like you. They say legends are just stories, but some stories were never meant to be known. In the remote hills of what is now southern Turkey, buried beneath centuries of stone, ruins, and forgotten prayers, once stood a sacred monastery, a place untouched by time, where only a few chosen men ever entered. These weren't kings, not priests, not scribes. They were guardians, protectors of a text so dangerous, so utterly transformational, that its mere existence was considered a threat to religious order. For generations, this ancient scroll was kept in total secrecy. No copy was made, no public teaching allowed. It was wrapped in layers of animal skin, sealed with wax, and placed in a hidden chamber, away from light, from air, and from the world, until now. It was only a few years ago that a group of biblical archaeologists stumbled upon the hidden room during a non-public excavation. What they uncovered shook even the most skeptical minds. There, beneath stone and dust, untouched for nearly 3,000 years, they found it, a parchment, yellowed with age but still intact, written not in Greek nor in Latin, but in ancient Hebrew, encoded with patterns and phrases that had never appeared in any modern translation of the Bible. And what's more shocking, this wasn't a historical record. It wasn't a list of rules. It was a code, a divine structure of words, numbers, and spiritual instructions that mapped the exact principles of divine prosperity, freedom, and restoration. A spiritual algorithm, hidden in plain sight. But you've never heard of this. Not in Sunday school, not in your Bible study group, not even in seminary, if you've been there. Why? Because somewhere along the way, this knowledge was deleted, distorted, and ultimately buried. Buried not in soil, but in doctrine. Translations of the Bible omitted entire layers of meaning. Words were softened. Concepts of spiritual law were replaced with vague metaphors. And the original spiritual mechanics of abundance, how heaven's prosperity truly flows, were pushed aside. You may have even been taught that wealth is a sin, or that being poor is part of God's plan. But that teaching is part of the system that keeps this code locked away. And here's where it gets deeper. A group of Hebrew scholars and theological researchers, working quietly and independently, began analyzing the scroll. Their findings? The phrases encoded within the parchment predate known biblical canon, and yet mirror foundational passages in Proverbs, Deuteronomy, and even the teachings of Jesus. But more than that, they unveil missing words, instructions that unlock cycles of blessing and break ancestral chains of spiritual scarcity. This wasn't a conspiracy theory. This was academic. It was spiritual, and it was real. The more they studied it, the more they realized that this scroll contained the missing link between man's obedience and God's abundance. Not just prayer, not just fasting, but activation, a type of alignment with the original divine pattern that reawakens authority, flow, and multiplication in every area of life: health, relationships, finances, and spiritual clarity. But of course, not everyone wants this to be known. Systems are built on silence, and those systems lose power when you gain understanding, and that's why you've never heard of it, until now. Because in just a few seconds, I'm going to show you what this code really says, and when I do, it will confront everything you've ever been told about God, money, and what it means to live a blessed life. Are you ready? The scroll was unsealed, and for the first time in over 3,000 years, eyes fell upon a language that vibrated with sacred intensity. The letters weren't written casually. Each stroke was deliberate, ancient Hebrew, but not the kind you see in modern texts. This was Paleo-Hebrew, raw, elemental, the language believed to have been spoken by the prophets themselves. And right at the center, the code began to emerge. The phrase that caught every scholar's attention was short but potent: baraka, stvmh, baraka, satuma. Translated literally, it means sealed blessing. But in the depth of Hebrew mysticism and biblical law, this phrase held more than just a poetic meaning. It described a state of prosperity divinely locked away, only accessible to those who align with its spiritual rhythm. The word baraka, blessing, is tied to divine multiplication, spiritual wealth, and generational abundance. But satuma, sealed, implies it's been hidden, concealed, protected from misuse. Most translations skip over this entirely. In some versions, it's reduced to withheld, delayed, or even absent, but that's not what the scroll revealed. It didn't say the blessing was gone. It said it was sealed, accessible, but protected, hidden, not denied. This subtle difference changes everything, because if a blessing is denied, there's nothing you can do. But if it's sealed, there must be a key. And the real shock? That key was removed from nearly every modern translation. Not out of error, but intentionally. The alignment required to unlock it, divine action, spoken declaration, covenantal obedience, was stripped from the text to make you believe that breakthrough depends on waiting, not activating. It's like having a key in your pocket, but using it on the wrong door. Imagine standing in front of a vault filled with health, clarity, purpose, peace, and financial flow. You've got the key in hand. You try every door in the house, but none open. Why? Because the translation told you the vault was never there, or worse, that you weren't worthy of opening it. But it was there, and you were chosen. You just needed to remember which door it was. This is why the spiritual system feels broken for so many people. You pray, you tithe, you serve, but the blessing stays sealed, not because God isn't faithful, but because you weren't shown the full map. You were given pages without the legend. But here's the shift. When the scholars translated the rest of the phrase using full grammatical decoding, another pattern emerged. The structure of the code wasn't a sentence, It was a formula, a divine principle of spoken alignment, declaration, sacred timing, obedience to divine rhythm, and covenantal positioning, identity and authority. This wasn't superstition. This was spiritual technology. It was embedded in the very fiber of the language God used to create the universe. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, because suddenly everything makes sense. The delays, the cycles, the almosts, the silence. It all connects back to a truth that was deliberately obscured, and now it's being restored, right here, in front of you. If this is making sense to you so far, if something inside you is waking up, drop the word code in the comments right now, because this can't stay hidden any longer. But just knowing about the code is not enough. You have to apply it. That's where everything changes. When the sealed blessing becomes unlocked, not by ritual, not by chance, but by spiritual activation through intentional alignment. And I need to tell you this right now. This is not magic. It's not some mystical shortcut to wealth. It's not about repeating Hebrew phrases like a spell. This is about realignment with God's original structure for your life. The same way ancient Israel walked in supernatural provision while surrounded by barren land, this code of alignment releases that same current when activated the right way. Let me show you what this looks like. Michael, a man in his late 40s living in Kansas, grew up in church, tithing, serving, praying, but still broke, still stuck. He called it a silent curse. Year after year, promotions would fall through, opportunities would collapse. His marriage was strained. His children were distant. He believed it was just life, or worse, God punishing him for not being spiritual enough. Until one night, he watched a video, like this one, that introduced him to the Hebrew code. He didn't understand everything at first, but he felt something shift inside. He began to declare the word baraka satuma every morning before sunrise, not as a chant, but as a declaration. Lord, I align my heart with your sealed blessing. Let it be unlocked by truth, by obedience, by understanding. He did this for 7 days. During that week, a loan that had been blocked for 6 months was approved. His teenage son, who hadn't spoken to him in weeks, asked to pray together. And when Michael sat down with his Bible again, it wasn't just words. It was a blueprint. He realized that applying the code wasn't about more effort. It was about clarity. When you begin to see prosperity as the fruit of alignment, everything changes. That's why you're not just being invited to listen. You're being called to activate. So here's how you start. Every morning for the next 7 days, before you check your phone, before the world interrupts, go to a quiet place. Speak out the phrase, baraka satuma. Ask God to reveal the patterns you've been trapped in. Ask Him to rewire the code over your life, to open what's been sealed, to break what's been inherited, to realign what's been lost. Then write one step of obedience He gives you. It could be forgiving someone, starting something, ending something, sowing where you've feared, speaking where you've stayed silent. You don't need a spiritual degree. You need a willing spirit and understanding. The code isn't given to the strongest. It's revealed to the willing. And the more you walk in it, the more the sealed blessing becomes visible. If this is something you want me to teach deeper, the full pattern with biblical foundations and spiritual application, then say yes in the comments. Because if enough people ask, I'll reveal what even pastors are afraid to teach. What you just heard wasn't a theory, wasn't a sermon. It was a spiritual key that's been hidden from you and from your entire lineage for over 3,000 years. The scroll we uncovered, the Hebrew code, the activation. This was just the first level, a crack in the system. You see, the truth is, what you've lived until now was never your fault. You were trained in a framework designed to keep you small, silent, and spiritually broke. But now, the curse has a name, and what has a name can be broken. This isn't just a teaching, it's a collision with destiny. Because from the moment you clicked this video, something inside of you already knew, this is what I've been missing. And maybe you don't even know how to explain it yet, but your spirit does. It's remembering, reconnecting, reactivating. But listen carefully. What I shared today is only the surface. There are layers of this code that don't just shift your atmosphere. They rewrite your entire spiritual DNA. They touch your finances, yes, but they also touch your bloodline. They reverse spiritual patterns passed down through generations. They silence internal wars you've been fighting since childhood, and they rebuild your identity from the inside out. But here's the reality. If you ignore what was revealed here, if you scroll away and treat this as just another interesting video, then the system wins. The same system that erased this knowledge from your Bible, that taught you God is angry with you, that said being poor is holy, that whispered to you every night, you'll never get out of this. But if you choose to engage, not with me, but with what heaven just placed in your hands, then doors will open that haven't opened for anyone in your family. Cycles will break. New chapters will write themselves, not because of hype, but because truth sets people free. And this is only part one of your escape. There's something even deeper that you've never been told. In our next video, I'm going to expose something that, honestly, I wrestled for weeks before deciding to share. Because it might get censored, it might get silenced, but it has to be said. The church trained you to be poor. Yes, I'm going to show you, in the Bible, the exact structure of this deception, where it started, why it continues, and how to destroy it from your spirit, your house, and your future. If what you heard today brought you even an inch of freedom, I'm going to ask you, right now, be bold with me. Click like, so YouTube understands this is not just another motivational clip, it's revelation. Click subscribe so you don't miss the next layer of this journey. Share this video with one person who's been struggling with spiritual stagnation or financial warfare, and watch what happens. And finally, if your heart was stirred, if something clicked, if a veil was lifted, comment below with one word, liberated. Or if you want to go deeper, type, I break the system. That's how we make this message echo louder than the lies. That's how we force the algorithm to bend toward truth. That's how we build a remnant of people who will never again bow to spiritual poverty. You are part of that, and I'm not done. Not even close. You've just unlocked a truth that many forces have tried to bury for thousands of years. What you heard today isn't common knowledge. It's part of the forbidden truth of the Bible that was hidden from you, on purpose. Now this is no longer just a message. It's a mission. And if you're watching this, it means you've been chosen to carry it forward. So here's what you need to do now. Like this video, not for me, but to signal to the YouTube algorithm that this message must reach others who are stuck in spiritual darkness. Subscribe, because what's coming next will dive deeper into the biblical codes of divine prosperity, and you can't afford to miss what's about to be revealed. Share this with someone still trapped in cycles of lack, someone who's never been told the full story, and above all, click the next video right now, because in it, we will expose how the church trained you to be poor, how wrong Bible translations kept generations in slavery, and how you can finally step into your spiritual wealth and divine activation. This is your moment. This is the next level. And together we will uncover more hidden Bible codes, confront the spiritual systems of control, and walk in the financial miracle and biblical freedom that were always meant to be yours. Click the next video. Let's finish what we just started.